He hit me with one screen today, and I thought my life was over. Seriously, he's like from Krypton or something. He's strong. I'm going to call him in here and let him set a screen on you.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. And today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is also brought to you by MyBookie. Sign up now and get your deposit matched with up to 50% bonus by using the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy basketball analyst at basketballmonster.com. And you can find me as always on Twitter at redrock_bball. We have got a big Wednesday to break down. There are 11 games there. We're going to preview a 4-game Thursday, which includes an early game, one game in London between the Celtics and the Sixers. We're going to cast the player spotlight on a Los Angeles Lakers guard, and we're going to go through all the other nightly awards. So, Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Every Wednesday from now until, I don't know, let's say I'd say probably sometime in March, I'm going to be hosting an AMA on the Fantasy Basketball subreddit at Fantasy B-Ball over there and giving away a Basketball Monster membership to people over there on that subreddit. Had huge response today, just smashed through with questions and comments. So I appreciate everyone who did join in there. Every Wednesday at about 4 Eastern, there'll be an AMA posted over there on that Fantasy Basketball subreddit. So join in. And you can get involved and ask questions, and I'll be there normally there for about an hour and a half, and then cycle back through the day to answer questions. So thank you to everyone who was there and participated in that AMA today over on the Fantasy B-Ball subreddit. There's so much for us to talk about, given all the stuff that actually went down on Wednesday, so I'm not going to muck around too much more. Let's get straight to the monstrous line of the night. You know who it is. It's Lou Williams of the LA Clippers. 50 points for Lou. In the way he got to 50, just a ludicrous deep 3, just unbelievable stuff. 8 triples for Lou, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 16 of 27 from the field, and a perfect 10 of 10 from the line. I think that I speak the truth when I say that Lou Williams being the 25th ranked player this season would shock absolutely every single person in the fantasy basketball universe. There is absolutely no chance that I thought he would be that. He is the 15th ranked player over the last month, in that time averaging 28, 3.7 triples, 2.6 rebounds, 5.3 assists and 0.5 steals, going 44, 92 and 43 is his percentages on a usage of 33%. These are numbers that are out of control. Now, of course, at the start of the season, maybe we could have foresawn that we would have had Pat Beverly out for the season, Blake Griffin out, Miloš Teodosic out, Danilo Gallinari. We could have anticipated that all these guys were out, but probably not at the same time. So Williams is carrying this Clippers team. They are almost in the 8th seed in an unbelievable turn of events. At some point, Williams' numbers will drop. He won't maintain a usage of 33% for the season. He might hover around 29 or 30 around that mark. I've got no concerns about that. And I think his efficiency will be something that can keep up. He was at 59% true shooting last year and 58 the year before. For a guy who'd previously been pretty inefficient, he has turned it up significant notches. But shooting 45% from the field, which is up from 43 last year, which is up from 41 the year before. That's a really big change, and maybe there is some level of regression coming there. But of course, the return of Blake, the return of Gallinari, the return of Miloš, when those 3 blokes all come back, then some of Lou's game will drop. Blake and Gallinari returning will take the ball out of Williams' hands a little bit more, and they'll get their shots. Teodosic returning will drop Williams' assist numbers, and he won't be carrying the ball up. Then Doc has made a clear point of this, saying we don't want Lou bringing the ball up every possession. So when they get an actual point guard back, whether that is Miloš or when Austin Rivers returns, a guy I didn't even mention, all this stuff, the numbers for Lou are going to decline. Now, there is absolutely no chance of you getting a top 20 guy back in a trade for Lou. There's no chance of you getting a top 20 guy, top 25 guy back, I wouldn't have thought. But Lou, as I said, he's the 25th ranked guy at the moment. He's the 15th ranked guy over the last month. I would wager, I don't know what, but something. I would bet that he won't finish the season inside the top 25. I think that he finishes outside the top 30, just as that usage drops back by 3 to 5%. The assists drop back by 1 a game maybe. and the efficiency maybe takes a step back as well. Those things are all possibilities, and even if 2 of those 3 things happen, he won't end up inside the top 25 this season. It's been brilliant what Lou's been doing. You have to give him absolutely all the respect that you can, because he has been doing everything he can. He is just super fun to watch at the age of 31, continually getting better, but with so many factors contributing to this high load that Williams is carrying. When those things do change over the coming week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then Williams' numbers will be sure to drop to a degree. He will, of course, be a guy that you need to continue to own, but the numbers, they just can't possibly continue along this level. It's much like the Isaiah Thomas stretch that he had last season, when it was just going to be impossible for him to continue. Lou Williams over the last 2 weeks has a usage of 35 and a true shooting of 66. Not going to continue. I 100% guarantee you it won't. So maybe, be like a real NBA GM and gauge the interest in Lou Williams. And this is gonna ship me, no doubt. Through Twitter, we're going to be seeing the amount of Lou Williams trade machine, trade talks. And now we've got Shums reporting that the Clippers are looking to sign a contract extension with Lou Williams. There's just going to be constant shit. If I had to bet, and this is pretty much my standard position on nearly every player, if Lou Williams is traded this season, it's no. The Clippers aren't rebuilding. They like what Williams is doing. Once everyone's back, they've got a pretty strong team, like a strong enough team to actually make the playoffs. They signed Blake to that big contract. I don't see Jordan going anywhere. I don't see Lou Williams getting traded anywhere, especially if they're negotiating with contract extensions for him. I just don't see him getting traded. And again, that's my default position on nearly anyone when someone asks, is someone going to get traded? Because the majority of the time, they don't get traded. And that's a pretty safe bet to go on. But given the way that the Clippers have run things, they're not blowing it up. And for what they'd be asking for Lou Williams, based on the way he's played, I don't think any team's going to want to give that up. So maybe it happens. It could absolutely happen. But yeah, if I had to pick a side to say, will Lou Williams get traded, my instinct would tell me no, that he doesn't. Now I'm going to tell you about today's wonderful sponsor, and that is the good folks over at MyBookie. The NFL playoffs are finally here. And I want to tell you guys about mybookie.ag, the #1 rated online sportsbook. With your fantasy football season over and your fantasy basketball season still going, of course, the only way to use your sports knowledge to win cash is by betting at MyBookie, the sportsbook that makes it easy to deposit and even easier to cash out your winnings fast. They have odds on everything, live betting, and an all-new prop builder. Create your own bet slips and bet how you want. You can bet your friends that LeBron will score over 30 and have more than 10 assists. Why not bet it at MyBookie and put your money where your mouth is? Bet from your desktop, tablet, or in their world-class mobile site that lets you bet anytime, anywhere. MyBookie offers the fastest, no-hassle payouts when you win. Join now and MyBookie will match your deposit with a 50% bonus. Just use that promo code LOCKEDONNBA when making your account. Visit mybookie.ag today and bet on the internet's favorite sportsbook where you play, you win, and you get paid. The waiver wire line of the night today goes to Ekpe Udoh of the Utah Jazz. 16 and 9 for Udoh, 2 assists, 4 steals, 2 blocks, 7 of 9 from the field, and 2 of 2 from the free throw line. Udoh started with both Rudy Gobert and Derek Favors out, and this was by far his best offensive performance for the season. His highest amount of field goal attempts before this game had been 6. He took 10 here and went 7 of 10. His highest scoring performance was back on the 20th of November when he had 10 points. So this 16-point performance is significantly above anything else he's done. The 9 rebounds matches a season high. The 4 steals matches a season high. And he threw in 2 blocks as well. So it's safe to say this is the game of the season for Udoh, and he probably won't be able to put up numbers along this level as we move forward. But if Derek Favors' ankle does keep him out for extended periods of time, if Derek Favors is a part of this rumored Nikola Mirotic trade, which I'm not 100%, I don't really think that's going to happen, but if he is a part of that, and that happens before Rudy Gobert comes back, then Udoh's going to have to play as a center, and I would consider him along the lines of a Bismack Biyombo. Again, this is a really outlier performance in terms of offensive production. The last 2 starts he had 9 and 7 and 5 and 9 in 33 and 29 minutes, so this is a big offensive explosion. But in those 2 games, he had a steal and a block in the first one, and then 3 steals and 6 blocks in the second one. So he has produced some okay numbers when given those extra opportunities. Much like a Bismack Biyombo, he's going to be a rebounds guy, he's going to be a blocks guy, he can get his hands on some balls.
Giggity!
And get some steals, so he's able to do that as well if this happens that Favors misses more time or that Favors gets traded. So I wouldn't say that he's a highly sought-after piece to go and add because, again, it's probably a less than 30% chance he actually gets another start in this intermediate time. And even then, the output won't be the same level that we saw from Udo in this game against the Washington Wizards. The young gun of the night goes to Lauri Markkanen of the Chicago Bulls. Markkanen was on fire in the double overtime victory for the Bulls. 33 points and 10 rebounds. He hit 8 triples. He had an assist. He had 2 steals. He had a block. He was 10 of 22 from the field and 5 of 5 from the free throw line. Lauri is the 75th ranked player so far this season, and over the last 2 weeks, he's the 27th ranked player. The absence of Nikola Mirotic has enabled Markkanen to get more minutes, and in those last 8 games, he's averaging 20 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 3.8 threes, and half a steal and half a block. But 53% shooting from the field, which is up from 43 over the course of the season, 95 from the line, and 49% from three. So, of course, we look at those and we go, there is regression written all over those numbers. Field goal percentage, bang. 3-point percentage, bang. Scoring, all that stuff is likely to come down. But, of course, Markkanen is a must-own player. And if Mirotic is moved on and not moved on for another player who plays that position, which I can't see the Bulls doing, then Markkanen is going to be, I think he's got a chance to touch the top 50. It's a chance, but one of the things, and I've mentioned this plenty of times, that does hold him back from elite fantasy value is his lack of steals and blocks. And we had 2 steals and a block in this double overtime game, so that's great. But over the course of the season, in over 30 minutes a game, he's averaging just half a steal and just 0.6 blocks. So these aren't very big numbers. And they're things that he would need to increase. You'd want him to be at 1.5 blocks or 1.8 blocks and 0.9 to a steal a game. Then he could really be a consistent challenger to that top 20. And he's a top 30 guy over the last 2 weeks, but that's coming on the back of a true shooting of 70%, numbers which are unrealistic for him to continue at any point in his career, let alone as a rookie who's played a grand total of 39 NBA games. So he's been fantastic. Recently, especially, really brought up his game. He has scored in double digits for 10 straight games. The last time he didn't get to double figures was against Milwaukee, where he had 3 points in 20 minutes. But consistently putting up numbers. He's hit multiple threes in 10 or 9 straight games as well. He's had 2 double-digit rebounding performances in that stretch also. Really, really strong. He also hasn't missed a free throw for his past 5 games, attempting 11 free throws in there. So he's hit his last 11. Been really, really superb. I wasn't expecting him to be anywhere near as good as what he is. I knew he'd be a good shooter, but I didn't think he'd be able to translate it into high usage as well as he has this season. The return of Zach LaVine's going to be interesting, but it's not like Markkanen is sporting this high usage. He's only at 22% usage for the season so far on only 12.8 field goal attempts, only 2.3 free throw attempts. So it's not like he's using tons of possessions. He's hitting his threes, he's doing it efficiently, he's bringing in nice rebound numbers, and he's going to be a very, very strong top 100 guy who's got a chance to sniff that top 50. I think that's probably just a little bit out of range, but he's been good. But his lack of defensive stuff, I think, really does hamper him, and I've said this before, it does hamper his long-term top 20, top 30 upside. I think that might make him struggle to get there. I can see him having multiple top 50, top 40 type seasons, but pushing into that upper echelon the first 2 rounds, he's going to have to bring more, and I don't think that he can do that. I don't think he can get those defensive numbers up there, so I don't think he'll ever become this top 20, top 25 sort of a player, which of course translates into being a fantasy stud. The dud of the night. I tell a man's not hot. Yeah, I'd say he's not hot. Aaron Gordon, didn't mean to bring that down. Aaron Gordon is not hot. 11-4 with 1 assist, but just horrendous shooting. 4 of 18 from the field, 3 of 4 from the line. Aaron Gordon's the 47th ranked player for the season. Over the last month, he's the 155th ranked player in these 8 games since returning from his injury. 20 points per game. That's pretty nice. 2 threes. That's pretty good as well. 7.5 rebounds. Yep, that's all good. But 0.5 steals, this is Lauri Markkanen territory, 0.4 blocks, and a horrendous 42% shooting on 18 attempts, which is horrible, and 68% from the line on 4.3 attempts, also horrible. So his efficiency is really, really costing you. And one of the big things that enabled him to put together this run at the start of the year of being a top 20 guy was the fact that he was consistently shooting 42% from 3, and I made impassioned pleas to tell you that he won't continue to shoot at this level. Got into arguments on the Basketball Monster boards, the fact that he won't continue to be a 43% shooter from 3 or a 40% shooter, and in fact over his last 3 games he's a 10% shooter. Over his last 8 games since returning from that injury, he's shooting at 29% from 3. Now, 29% is exactly what he shot last season. I think he's better than that. I think that he can get back up to mid-30s, 35 to 36 sort of zone, and maybe the calf is impacting him and the concussion he had as well. Maybe those things are impacting his shooting, but the fact remains he was a shit shooter throughout the first 3 years of his career. He started off this season in the first 20, 25 games as a good shooter, and then it started to tumble, and it's continued to go down from there. Do you do anything panic-wise with Az Gordon? Well, if someone says, I want to give you a top 25-based player back for him, then sure, absolutely, let's go. Let's execute that. Let's get it done. Give me Kyrie, no worries. I think that he is going to bounce back. He is going to see the field goal percentage jump back up, but don't expect it to come back up to his season-long numbers. I expect the field goal percentage and the three-point percentage to be lower than where he currently is. And I also expect those defensive numbers to bounce back a little bit. Now, he's never been a great shot blocker. Averaged just half a block last year, obviously playing out of position, 0.7 the year before. And so those recent numbers are a little bit troubling. Hasn't even blocked a shot in his last 3 games. But I expect a level of increase there, and also a level of increase in the steals, which have been a little bit down over the last month. So hopefully those two things can bounce back, but it hasn't been a great run of things for Az Gordon at the moment, and I do believe they will bounce back. But he is, of course, your dud of the night. I reckon that's probably his first dud for the season. I think he's got a couple of monstruses in there as well, but wasn't a good Az Gordon performance, as all his owners would be well aware of. It's time for me to go into question time now on the show, and this is a question that gets asked all the time, so I thought I'd address it now, and it's from Johnny Jimson, who is at John Wright NS. He says, what is your fantasy basketball origin story? Some of you may have heard this before, but I get asked it all the time. This will be the last time I answer it this season on the show, but I thought it was as good a time as any. So, John, my fantasy basketball origin story. So I started playing fantasy games back with the old AFL Dream Team back in like 1995, Australian football stuff. Did played a lot of NFL fantasy through the early 2000s, mid 2000s. And then in that mid to late 2000s, started playing fantasy basketball. Joined a league with my brother, won that on the first try, and I think I won 2 out of the next 3 leagues there. Then started entering a lot of random ones and won a lot of those. And I thought, this is good. I'm enjoying what this is doing. And then I was looking for a hobby, I guess, to take me away from doing what I was doing as a job, which was being a pharmacist. Looking, can I get out of this industry, and maybe can I turn something into something else? I feel like I've got an ability to watch sports and analyse them and have opinions on them and all that sort of stuff. So what I did is I applied for a position over at Pro Football Focus. You guys would know those guys, the analytics for the NFL, in terms of charting videos and making notes of the charting process that they do over there. So I started doing that, but that was just taking so much of my time. Obviously working a full-time job, I didn't have the ability to continue doing it. So I pulled out of that. I said, okay, well, so what else can I do that's sports related? This was in I think August, NFL preseason. What else can I do as a hobby? And I thought, what? Fantasy basketball, NBA season's coming up. You know what? I'm just going to start writing about it. I'm just going to start a website. So I started redrockbasketball.com and started writing articles about fantasy basketball. Kyle McEwen, who was the editor at RotoWire at that point, he saw my stuff. I think I probably emailed him and said, hey, Kyle, I'd love you to have a look at this stuff. I've just started it a few weeks ago. He was impressed with it. He said, I'd like to give you a job doing some part-time work at RotoWire. So I started there doing the updates. And when you play ESPN Fantasy and you click on a player profile and you get those notes, they're written by the guys at RotoWire. So I used to write those 1 day a week, probably 3 months or so after I started the site. Then I thought, what, I think I could speak better than I can do writing. So what I did is then started up a podcast. So there wasn't much in the fantasy basketball podcast space. There was Kyle's podcast, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I did. So I started my own podcast back then as well, which was February 2014, I believe. I pushed through there with only about 30 people, I think, listened to the podcast for the first 2 months, very limited audience. Keep pushing, kept doing the articles, kept doing the work at RotoWire. And then pushed through that season. And then I think it was the end of the next season, I headed across to Vegas Summer League. I was doing more work for RotoWire, writing box score breakdowns each day after the games and getting more stuff out there. And then joined the Hardwood Paroxysm Network for for the podcast, and that got me exposed to more people. And then joined up with Basketball Monster at the end of that season, and was able to turn it into a full-time job through a lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of concentration, a lot of late nights. A lot of starting at 7 a.m. for my other job. Then working till 10, 11 p.m. at night here, doing the basketball stuff, writing, recording, being consistent, and never really taking days off. Had a schedule for, I'm going to do it these days. These are the days I'm going to do it. Making sacrifices to do all that sort of stuff. So that's sort of where it came from. Just continually putting out content, people seeing it and enjoying it, and then gradually growing it over the period of now. We're heading into the fifth. This is the fifth season of the podcast and the fifth season of me covering fantasy basketball. So it's been a long time for me to transition it into a full-time job, and there's obviously a significant amount of luck involved. But that's how it started. So John, that's the story. That's the story for everyone. I'm sure I'll get asked it again at some point in the near future or next season, and I might recap it all then. But that's how it all looks at the moment, John. So thank you for that question. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into these games, into these box scores, and try and discern what level of information we can, how it all pans out, how everything should look, and what we can take out of these games. The first one of those games we're going to look at is the Utah Jazz and the Washington Wizards. Big win for the Jazz. This was a pretty decent game, nice and close down the end. We talked about Udo, but Ricky Rubio, his owners would be pretty happy with this. 41 minutes for Rick. Just the 3 assists. So I think the times of Rubio getting 9-10 assists per game, they feel dead given the way this Jazz offense is running. But he is scoring more and more regularly. 21 points with 3 triples and 3 steals. The steals are still nice. The scoring's nice. He's a guy I'd make sure I'd still be owning in 12-team leagues. He's just not going to give us the level of production that we'd seen from him previously. The Don struggled a bit, 16, 5, and 4 in 31 minutes for Donovan Mitchell. He'll have these nights where the shot doesn't go in, while Rocket Rodney Hood was ejected for getting his second technical foul. Then on the way off the court, smashed a phone out of a fan's hand. So I imagine there's going to be a significant fine coming from Rocket, or perhaps even a suspension. It wasn't a great look for him. He didn't shoot the ball well in that first half, just 3 of 11 for his 7 points. The power forward rotation remains a mystery. Tabo Cephalosha, who'd been playing 28, 30 minutes a night, then he moved to the bench, played 9 minutes and had 2 points, while Jonas Jerebko played 20, and out of nowhere, Joe Johnson played 33 and had 16, 4, and 4. 3 steals, 3 triples. When Joe Johnson was a fantasy force in his time in Atlanta and his time in Brooklyn, people were always really down on him. They never gave him the sort of respect that he deserved as a fantasy player. Now, when he's not a fantasy relevant guy, he has one game like this and people are all over it. Man, let's go, Joe Johnson, time to add. Look, nah, man. I don't think so. There's no consistency with this rotation in that front court. This is a good game from Joe. He's been garbage pretty much every other game apart from one this season, so I don't think there's anything to really see here. Jingle and Joe had 10, 5, and 6. Didn't shoot well, but those 6 assists are obviously gold, and they're worth their weight in gold for being owned in 12-team leagues. While Royce O'Neal, he was really good. 10 and 4 in 14 minutes for Royce. He's a guy that looks like he's going to remain in the rotation, but not going to be too much of a fantasy asset. With his minutes up, Alec Burks was down to 5 minutes. Man, remember when he had that little run of getting 25 minutes a night and everyone was really going the old Dutch rudder on him? It's cooled off a bit. The Wizards, Johnny Wall, 35, 6, and 11. 3 steals, a block, 3 triples. That is a huge line. The free throw is still a real pain in the ass for John, but that's nice otherwise. 23, 5, and 7 for Brattles, while Otto Porter had 14 and 6, and he knocked in 3 steals as well as 2 triples. So a decent night from Porter. Markieff Morris, 27 minutes for Markieff, 8 and 6 with 2 triples and a steal. He'd been putting up some okay numbers. Look, he's fine if you want to own him in 12-team leagues, but he's nowhere near a priority sort of guy. They played tons of minutes to their starters here, so much so that Tomas Satoransky played only 6 minutes. Jan Mihinmi played only 8. And Marcin Gortat got 27. He had 8 and 8, and you know my thoughts on him. He's over-owned. He shouldn't be a 12-team league player, in my humble opinion, of course. The Dallas Mavericks and the Charlotte Hornets, back-to-back 30-plus minute games for Dennis Smith Jr., 15, 3, and 6 with 2 blocks. The field goal percentage, yeah, it's going to be a problem, but everything else looks good. And the fact that they're playing Yogi Ferrell at shooting guard, something we talked about yesterday, Ferrell started at shooting guard, means they're giving more minutes to Smith as the point guard. Yogi had 22, 4, and 1, hit 7 triples, and was 7 of 10 from the field. Of course, being 7 of 10 from the field and taking all 10 of your shots from the three-point line is not a sustainable model. He's not going to continue to shoot at this level. We saw him do it. I think he had 9 threes in a game last year against Portland. Everyone was really, really getting excited about Yogi. Man, look at him. He's going to be their point guard of the future. He's a gun. All that sort of stuff. But it's not... this level's not sustainable. Is he an ad for now? Maybe. But go back to the start of the season when he was starting and when he was playing 30 minutes a night. The numbers weren't spectacular. They were okay. And he's absolutely fine to own, but this is obviously the upper echelon or the upper level of production for Yogi. The pencil, Harrison Barnes had 25 and 11, while Dirk had 19, 2 and 2, and Maxi Kleber played 12 minutes off the bench now that he's been replaced by Ferrell. I don't imagine that changing anytime soon, but with Kleber going to the bench and the change in the structure of their lineups, it does impact what Dwighty Powell can do. He played only 12 minutes, so I wouldn't be, if I did grab Powell because of that nice little stretch, I'd be happy to move on from him. Onto the Hornets, Kemba had 41, 3 and 4, 3 steals, a block and 3 triples. Point guards, man. Point guards against the Bulls, point guards against the Nets, point guards against the Magic, and point guards against the Mavericks. They put up big numbers on a consistent basis. It's something you can really attack for DFS, and we saw it again here. Big game from Kemba. Marvin Williams, 29 minutes, the most minutes he's gotten in a while. 5 and 6, so really nothing spectacular, while Jezza Lamb had 12 and 4 in his 22. Kid Gilchrist, 11 and 4, not a standard league player, in my opinion, while Dwight, that's strong from Dwight, 15 and 12, a steal and 4 blocks, but man, those free throws, that is horrific. 5 of 18, but you know what? You own Dwight, you know you're losing free throws every week, so he can go 5 for $1 million for all I care. Even if he went 30 for $1 million, that'd be great because I'd get 30 extra points. I don't care that he went 5 for 18. It should make absolutely zero difference to what you do. He was actually great from the field as well, 5 of 5, so even a bigger bonus for Dwight. So when you look at his ranking, this is why I do discount overall ranks as things. Like he's ranked the 234th player for today's games. Bullshit. Like it's bullshit. Like he's just not. That's not who he is. That is definitely not the 234th best performance. It's because of those free throws, and that's why I do like if I'm going to talk rankings, which again don't really have too much impact on anything, I like to do it by extracting the players' worst 2 categories to give you an actual idea of where their value truly lies. The next game, the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. Bam Adebayo played a lot more minutes next to Hassan Whiteside like he did against the Raptors. Wasn't quite as effective, but still 15, 2 and 5 is fairly strong from Adebayo. No blocks and 7 of 9 from the line. This, of course, was without Justice Winslow and it was without Jim Johnson, who was out suspended. So Bam got those extra minutes. He played more than Kelly Olynyk for the second consecutive game. He played more than Hassan Whiteside, and you have to think he's going to stick in the rotation. But when you've got Johnson, Olynyk, and Whiteside, and then Adebayo, that's 4 big men for 96 minutes. How does that all get broken down? And Winslow's been playing the majority of his minutes at power forward when he returns. So that's 5 blokes for those positions. Do they just keep Winslow out of the rotation completely? I guess it's a possibility. Because where else are they going to play him at the 3? Are they going to reduce the Duke's minutes to get to get Justice Winslow in there? There's a lot of interesting rotation decisions for Spoelstra when all these guys come back. As for Adebayo, I don't think that he's a guy that I run and grab for standard leagues, but he's showing a lot more than we anticipated, and he's a 14 to 16 teamer. Hassan was great, only the 28 minutes, but still great, 16 and 15 with 4 blocks, while Tyler Johnson was ruled out 90 minutes before the game, and then played 31 minutes, and he's not dealing with a shoulder strain, so thank you to everyone for correcting that report. And it took 24 hours for that to be corrected. All the Heat, he's out with a shoulder strain, and then they go, no, they asked Tyler after the game, how's your shoulder? It's not my shoulder, it's my neck. Like, does someone want to get it right? What's going on here? 15 and 5 for Jono with 3 triples in this game, while the Iron Shoulder continues a strong run. 20 points, 3 rebounds, and 9 assists for Dragic. While Joshie Richardson, 14, 3 and 4. The blip on the field goal percentage from last game was corrected. He was 5 of 9 for 56%. The Duke hit 4 triples as well. Derek Jones Jr. started. He had 8 points with a steal and a block. I don't think he's going to start the next game with Tyler Johnson. Or even if he does, he's not anywhere close to being a 12 or 14 team league guy. The Pacers, no Miles Turner, out with that elbow problem. So Domantas Sabonis started, played 31 minutes and had 18 and 7. The problem is he did nothing else. No steals, no blocks, no assists, no threes. But he's still a guy that you want to go on. I would add Sabonis over, say, a Bam Adebayo if I'm given that opportunity. Oladipo had 26, 7, and 4 with 3 steals, and this is probably the best the Deuce Young's looked in a while, 12 and 9 with a steal and a block. I think he's borderline in 10-team leagues, Young. He's a guy I want in 12s, but he is borderline. Daz Collison, 7 points, 3 assists, while Corey Joseph had 5 and 3, and they both played 27 minutes, which they just go back to Dazza playing the 30 or 31. I still think that he is a must-own guy. Lancey had 15, 8, and 4 in his 25 minutes, while Boyan had 15 and 6. A nice line from him, but nothing to really get too excited about with Bogdanovic. He is a streamer at best. The Detroit Pistons and the Brooklyn Nets. I talked about point guards going up against the Nets, but if you've got a big man going up against Brooklyn, strap yourself in. Andre Drummond, 22 and 20 in 31 minutes, 5 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. That is just an absolute monster of a performance from Drummo, while Toby Harris in only the 26 minutes, 22 and 4, as you can tell. This game was a smashing. Dwight Bikes played 24 minutes. Ish Smith played 24 minutes as the point guards. Bikes killed him, 17, 2 and 3, while Smith had 8, 4 and 5. I've said it, and I've said it many times. I don't think Ish Smith is that good. I think he gets overrated consistently in fantasy circles and in real life circles, but I'm not here to tell you that Dwight Bikes is going to take this starting job off Ish. But Bikes has clearly taken it over from Langston Galloway. He's putting up consistent numbers, consistently good numbers. And if you're in a deeper league, 16-team league, I'd be definitely looking at Dwight because the numbers are there. He's scoring well. He's getting assists. And yeah, he's consistent and he's doing good stuff. Avery Bradley, 13, 2 and 5. The shot eluded him in this one. While Reggie Bullock, 50% shooting again, man, continues to make me look like a dick, but only 7 points with 4 rebounds in 28 minutes. I want to touch on Luki Kennard. I've talked about him quite a bit. He was supreme in this game. 13 and 6 in only 18 minutes with 2 triples and a steal. And at this point, it feels like the only reason he's not getting big minutes is because Van Gundy's sitting there, rubbing his mustache with a cheeseburger and saying, oh, he's a rookie, man. He can't play. Can't play. He's a rookie. Can't play more than 20 minutes. Rookie. Because Kennard's doing plenty of stuff. He's defending, he passes, he scores, he shoots. I think he's shooting at like 45 or 46% from 3. And you know what? I probably should check that because I reckon I might even be underselling him. He is shooting at a ludicrous level. We talk about Jason Tatum hitting his threes, which is obviously fantastic. But this bloke here, Luke Kennard's at 44% from 3. Over the last month, he's at 56%. These are crazy numbers for a rookie, quite clearly. Now, his volume is not the same as what a Tatum was, but at 2.5 threes per game to hit 44% of them as a rookie, he's good. He is going to be a good player. He is not just a white three-point shooter. He can handle, he can rebound, he can assist, he can get steals, he can defend a little bit. I think that he has got multiple top 75 fantasy seasons in him in 2 to 3 years' time. And if the Pistons either have Avery Bradley leave or if they decide not to re-sign Avery Bradley, I can absolutely see Kennard move into that starting lineup, lock down 31 minutes a night, and be a top 120 guy as early as next season. So he is someone to pay some attention to. I really liked what I saw from him here. Onto the Nets, Alan Crabb was doubtful, just another one of these guys that was doubtful or ruled out that ended up playing. 26 minutes for the Blue Swimmer, 20 points with 5 triples, a steal, a block, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists on some very efficient shooting. So it's good to see. Good to see that he put up those sort of numbers. He's had struggled for a while, but that's obviously impressive to do that. He's more of a streamer than a must-own guy. Hollis Jefferson, 15 and 7 with 3 steals, and my boy Karis LeVert, just the 27 minutes for LeVert, but 12, 5 and 3, 2 threes, a steal on 63% shooting is impressive. And to me, he is a guy that you want to own. The guy that really shit the bed here was Spencer Dinwiddie, just 26 minutes against his former team. 2, 3, and 3. So you can probably chalk that one up to a revenge game for Spencer. Just horrible. I think he's obviously going to be okay until D'Angelo Russell comes back, and then he is going to suffer some level of a dip. Kenny Atkinson can talk all he wants about, I'm going to play him alongside D'Angelo, but you got to play D'Angelo, you got to play Spencer, you got to play Karis, you got to play the Blue Swimmer. Someone is going to lose some playing time there, and it's probably going to be shared across all of those guys. So Dinwiddie's numbers are going to fall. There is no doubt about that, but still a guy you need to hold on to. Jahlil Okafor, 17 minutes for Big Jar, free jar. Hashtag 0 points, 4 rebounds, 0 of 3 from the field, 1 display of shitfulness. He's not good. He's not a 12-team league guy. He's not a 14-team league guy. He's had 1 game since he came back in this second stint that looked decent, that 12 and 5 against Boston with 2 blocks. Just been atrociously shitful in all the other games. Oh, he just needs a chance, man. Just needs a chance. Yeah, it's been 3 years. I think we've seen a chance. He's had opportunities. It's not, and people, I go on about Okafor all the time, but people act like the Sixers just didn't play him. Like, they wanted him to be good. They gave him the opportunity. He wasn't good. Simple as that. And I just don't think that it's going to happen for him. So if for some reason you did grab him in a 12-team league and are still holding, I would not be doing that. Jarrett Allen was all right, 4-2-2 with a blocker. I think it's unlikely at this point that he is going to be a standard league relevant player this season, unfortunately. Chicago and the Knicks, a double overtime game. Robin Lopez, 41 minutes, 20-7 with 2 blocks. Don't really ever need to see 40 minutes out of Robin Lopez. I'm not a big Punch Bob Shiplock fan, but Bob Portis could play more than the 19 minutes he played. He wasn't good. And you know why? Because he's not good. He's not a good player, Bob Portis. I don't care what anyone says. You can show me whatever bullshit you want. He is not good. I would have preferred to see more minutes from him. He is a psychopathic energy guy who goes out there and gets rebounds, jacks shots, is a horrible teammate on court. I'm not even talking about the Mirotic stuff. Horrendous defender. He is just not good. But he can put up the fantasy stats when games get out of control because he comes in and jacks up 12 shots in a quarter and makes his numbers look great. He is not a 12-team league guy. If Mirotic gets traded, maybe, but he just doesn't do anything in the defensive numbers. He's a scoring guy that requires blowouts to really get going. I've seen many people tweet that Chris Dunn is going to be a multi-time All-Star, and that is a laughable statement to me. He has been much more impressive than I thought he would be, but he's not that good. 9 points in 46 minutes. The other numbers, fine. 2 rebounds, 8 assists, 5 steals, and a block, and that makes him a very, very good fantasy player. But he's out of control on the court at times. The shot selection is atrocious some of the time. But you love these counting stats. They're absolutely fantastic. And he should be owned. Fred Hoiberg with an idiotic statement today. We're going to play Zach LaVine at point guard. That doesn't work. Playing for a stint, we're going to play him with the ball in his hand. And I guess that's fair enough when Jaren Grant's out there. But don't take the ball out of Chris Dunn's hands to give it to LaVine. LaVine's just not good in that role. I'm not convinced that LaVine's actually good in general. But it will be interesting to see. I don't think that it's going to impact Dunn really anything at all with to have LaVine there. The Hammer, Denzel Valentine, 34 minutes, 20-9, 4 assists, 4 triples. These are the numbers when I talk about him being a good fantasy guy that I look forward to. He's just inconsistent, and the role that he's going to have when LaVine returns for their next game on Saturday is going to be super interesting. Is it him that loses out? Is it Justin Holiday that loses out? Is it David Nwaba that loses out? It was 34 minutes for Valentine here, 45 for Justin here, and 32 for Nwaba. If we're going to be serious about the Bulls rebuilding, it has to be Holiday as a 27-year-old journeyman guy rather than your lottery draft pick from last season in the Hammer, or David Nwaba, who's a 22-year-old untried guy. It should be Holiday that loses the bulk of those minutes, but I'm not sure that that's necessarily going to be the case. So the Hammer has a very tenuous grip on 12-team value that might end as soon as Saturday. Justin Holiday's value may also end there, but I think that he will stick as he's become way more efficient and way more prudent in his shot selection. On to the Knicks. Jarrett Jack, could you have a worse game with getting a triple-double? 16, 10, and 10, 2 steals, 40 minutes, 62%. You look at that and go, Josh, why was it a bad game? It just was. It was just a horrendous 3-point jacked shot, pun unintended at the end of the game. I don't need Jarrett Jack trying to dribble down and take pull-up threes to win the game with 3 seconds on the clock when Kristaps Porzingis is on the court, when Michael Beasley's on the court, when anyone else is on the court. Just ludicrous decision-making. He hasn't been good for a while, Jarrett Jack, but the numbers are okay. He's more of a stream option, but continues to be frustrating the way that Frankie Ntilikina is being used. Not saying Ntilikina was good in this one, because he wasn't. 0, 1, and 3 in 18 minutes, but his minutes are like a yo-yo. I thought he'd be starting by now. I thought he'd at least be playing a consistent 28 or 29 per game, but that's clearly not happening thanks to Jeff Hornacek.
My name is Jeff.
Who low-key, even though this team is in the playoff mix, he's bad. He's a bad coach. He's made bad coaching decisions. Enes Kanter, 15 and 7 in 32 minutes. Koch had 6 and 9 in 26, while Porzingis had 24 and 6 with 4 blocks, and weirdly missed all 4 of his free throws. That's not something you see from Kyle O'Quinn all that often, while Lance Thomas played 13 minutes, so we could give 39 minutes to Mick Beasley, who continued to crush it. 26 and 12, a 111 for Beasley. He is a must-own guy. Again, I do think that it will change when Timmy Hardaway returns, because they just won't need his shot-jacking ways as much with Hardaway out there. He moves from a second option to a third option, but he has improved his defense, and he is better than Doug McDermott, and he is better than Lance Thomas, so he's got that going his way. But I do think that the usage will drop and the playing time will drop when Hardaway does return. The next game, the Portland Trailblazers and the Houston Rockets. Dame returned 32 minutes, 29, 5 and 8. Strong there from him. And that moved Shabazz Napier back to the bench, who played 23 minutes and had 9, 2 and 2. So if you did grab him in a 12-team league, Napier can go. Mo Harkless played 8 minutes. I don't expect him to be an every night rotation guy now that Lillard is back, while CJ had 24, 6 and 4. Yusuf Nurkic, it wasn't a great matchup for him against the Rockets, just the 21 minutes, 8 and 8 with 3 blocks. So still got some stuff done. Was very inefficient, took a lot of shots. I expect him to be better for the next game. While El Farouk Aminu, man, he is the definition of this.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Yep, 6 and 3 in 33 minutes for El Farouk with 2 triples. I think he's a very tenuous grip on a 12-team roster spot, and I don't think he's a 10-team league guy. On to the Rockets, of course. No Jim Harden. They were without Nene. They were without Luke Marmute. And then Tariq Black suffered an eye abrasion, and he was out, and he will miss their next game, and Nene will miss their next 2. So there is an opportunity. Fingers crossed there's an opportunity for Joe Chi, although he's barely played any center at all this season. I just think they'll go with more Tucker and Anderson lineups and give way more minutes to those wing players like Chrissy Paul, Eric Gordon, and Gerald Green. Clint only played the 24 minutes, had foul trouble, 13 and 9 with 2 blocks, still getting it done, while Gerald Green, 32 minutes, 12, 6 and 4, 3 triples. The shooting not quite as hot as it's been, but he's going to have value while these guys are injured. When Marmute comes back, it's going to be an impact, but even now with Nene and Tariq Black out, they're going to be able to squeeze Green into some of those ultra-small lineups. I was big on Trevor Ariza for DFS in this game, and he absolutely shit the bed. 0, 6 and 4 with 2 steals in 39 minutes, 0 of 6 from the field. And you hear me talk about trades on this show all the time, and nearly often when I say it, people go, man, what kind of bullshit league is this? Where do you think you're ever getting that sort of a deal done? All right, I hear that all the time. So what I like to do is bring you real-life examples of trade questions that I get asked. And this is not to call this person out. It's to bring to attention of the other thousands of people listening to this podcast the sort of stuff that you can get away with in some leagues. The trade question posed to me today is Kawhi Leonard or Trevor Ariza? Now, some of you may have laughed. Some of you may have said, "Oh, no!" But that is, these things the panic level takes hold. Ariza's not that good. Like, if you had have said Otto Porter or Kawhi Leonard, I would have said, you know what, I can understand maybe that. But these are the levels of conversation or the trade offers that get thrown out there and people seriously consider. So making an inquiry about some sort of dumb shit trade, who knows? If I've got Trevor Ariza, I'll throw him at my Kawhi Leonard and go, hey, how about it? So if I get Kawhi back, pretty bloody happy. And you know what? And then if something happens and Kawhi trips on a bar of soap and impales a bottle of shampoo up his asshole and has to require emergency rectal surgery and he's out for the season, then I go, you know what? Oh well, Trevor Ariza is like the 11th best player on my team. It doesn't matter. So, these are the sort of things that are out there. Be aware. Ryan Anderson remains shit, so 8 and 7 in 35 minutes for him, or Eric Gordon, 30 and 5. And Chrissy Paul just killed it. 37, 7 and 11. 3 steals, 3 triples, just taking on the Jim Harden role and excelling. The New Orleans Pelicans and the Memphis Grizzlies. No Tone Davis, so Boog Cousins played 40. He had 29 and 8 with 5 triples and 2 blocks. Rajon Rondo ups his game when Tone's not out there. 31 minutes for Rondo, 14, 2 and 3. This was always likely. I expected some more assists, but the usage and the scoring was always going to go up. Etuan Moore also got his usage up there to 23%, 16, 4 and 4, while Drew had 12, 6 and 6 with 2 steals. I expected a little bit more out of Drew, but that's still nice. I don't understand the fascination in the NBA with DeAndre Liggins. I don't get it. I don't understand how he gets bumped from team to team and doesn't stick and then goes to a new team and they immediately play him minutes. I know that there is a significant agent relationship with DeAndre Liggins. I don't know who his agent is. I probably should have looked that up. That's half of the shit that you see in Woj articles about him, really pumping him up, as Nate and Danny were talking about on Dunked On the other day. Just crazy stuff as a favor for his agent. So he's got some power in the NBA in that regard. But as an on-court player, he's not good. Talk about his defense all the time. Like he was a negative 12.1 on-off this season. He can't shoot, can't do anything offensively, and his defense is significantly overrated. But He signs a 10-day with the Pelicans, immediately in the rotation. Immediately. We cut Jameer Nelson down to 7 minutes so we can get 11 minutes of DeAndre Liggins out there. Dante Cunningham starts and plays only 18 minutes so we can get DeAndre Liggins out there. I knew it was going to happen. I knew Liggins was going to get out there, but I just don't understand the fascination with it at all. Omar Ashik. Is Omar Ashik the least defined player in the NBA? His arms have significantly less definition than what mine do, and mine don't have much at all. But shout out to him for still getting those checks, as Jalen Rose would say, in a completely different way. For the Memphis Grizzlies, JaMychal Green, big game from him, 20 and 14, 2 steals and a block. That's great. Do you trust it? I don't, because he has been bad all season. He was never this good at any point. Last season, people go, oh man, he was good last season. He was 137th ranked player and he averaged under 9 points per game. That's adequate. That's maybe adequate. Recently, he's been a little bit better. I'll grant him that. He scored double digits for 3 consecutive games. He's had a block in each of those games and he shot the ball at over 50% in the past 4 games. Yeah, an improvement there. But this is the first time that he's gotten to 30 minutes in what's like about a month's time. And he's not a high defensive stats guy. He's not a high usage scorer. This was an interesting move, an interesting performance, and it puts him into the top 100 over the last 2 weeks. But I don't buy it. He's more of a 14-team league guy or a back-end 12-team roster rather than a must-own player. Someone told me today on YouTube, shout out to you if you're listening, you're talking about a trade of Marc Gasol. Oh, Marc Gasol's trash. He's a 26th ranked player before today, and then he went out and put 21, 10, and 7. So unless you're playing in a 2-team league, then Gasol's a little bit better than trash. He had another strong game here. I talked about him in yesterday's player spotlight as well. Tyreek, 28, 6, and 3 with 2 triples in his 33 minutes. While Andy Harrison returned from his absence, played 30 minutes, had 11, 7, and 3 with 2 blocks. One of the better Andy Harrison games. Don't get overexcited about that happening too often. There was no Kobe Simmons. He was up for the G League showcase up in Toronto or surrounding suburbs, I believe. So we had to subject ourselves to 25 minutes of Mario Chalmers while Wayne Selden moved back to the bench and played only 8 minutes. I was hoping to see more of Selden, but Harrison's obviously got that job on lockdown, so you can consider Selden a very, very deep league guy only. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves, man, this Thunder team, it's so depressing to look at these box scores. 88 points? What on earth? Russ had 38, 10, and 5 with 4 steals and shot 65% from the field. That's great. Everyone else, terrible. 13, 6, and 4 for Paulie George on 36% shooting. Melo had 15 points, 1 rebound, nothing else, and then proceeded to shoot 5 of 19 from the field. Just horrendous. Terry Ferguson played 23 minutes and had 3 points as the starter. Steve-O Adams had 8 and 8 in his 34 minutes. And the bench, man, it is atrocious. I don't know what's going to happen with this team. They'll make the playoffs, but, man, they have some baffling performances. Outside of George, Westbrook, Melo, and Adams, none of these guys are standard league players. Ferguson showed some flashes, but he's going to go back to a 10-minute role, maybe, when Andre Robertson returns. There's nothing on the bench here that gives you any level of interest at all. For the Wolves, Jim Butler's pretty good. 26, 7, and 8, 4 steals, 2 blocks. I'm glad that the Timberwolves realised that A, he's their best player, and B, that we're going to let him play like their best player, and that has really turned things around in Minnesota. So I give Tom Thibodeau a lot of shit for the minutes he plays his guys and the craziness of having guys in, with 4 minutes left and up 20. But recognising that this bullshit offense we're running to start the season was not the way to go, and to let Jim run it, it's what needed to be done, and it's worked out fine. Now, I don't know if that was a Thibs thing, or if Butler's just gone, Tommy, mate, what's this bullshit? Just give me a couple of weeks, let me run things, and let's see how it goes. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Townsy had 18 and 12 with 2 triples in 30 minutes. It's 2 games in a row where Townsy's played only 30 minutes. That's something to keep an eye on, but there's foul troubles, there's all that sort of stuff, and it was a blowout, but that didn't stop Andy Wiggins playing 42 minutes. 19, 3, and 2. Another strong-ish game from Wiggins. Again, just nothing happening in those other categories, though, and that's always going to be the downfall for him. Jeff Teague returned.
My name is Jeff.
Probably should have started with that. 26 minutes for Teague. 8, 4, and 3. 2 steals, a block, a triple there as well. 6 shots. Below 20 usage, which is what he absolutely needs to do once he gets back to those full minutes load. So if he was dropped, of course, you add him and Tyus Jones, you can wave by to him. 3 points in 19 minutes. That's a very, very fast recovery from Teague. Also should mention that there is a rumour or word on the street that Jim Harden will be back as early as next week. Now, it's unverified. I saw it from one report only for a guy that does do some work on ESPN radio, but his report was coming from someone close to Harden's camp that's saying he's going to be back very soon and back next week. So that is extraordinary if Jim is back as early as that. There's no need for it. It'd be stupid, in my opinion, to see him back. But that's the report, so keep an eye on that. If you are a Jim Harden fan or a Jim Harden owner, however you want to phrase it, Taj Gibson struggled a little bit here, 9-5, and fouled out in 28 minutes. He's still a guy to own, Taj, but I think at some point that he might not be as his field goal percentage regresses. The Orlando Magic and the Milwaukee Bucks, this 7-point margin doesn't give credit to the fact the Bucks were killing them. Evan Fournier had a nice game, 21, 4 and 3, steal, a block, while Bismack Biyombo, 14 and 9 in 25 minutes. He's just not very good, Biyombo, and he can't handle big minutes. He still should be owned, but he's a really borderline guy, I believe. Mo Spates, 23 minutes. There's absolutely no reason to give Mo Spates 23 minutes. 14 points with 4 triples. He's a points streamer in like a 16 to 18 team scenario. And Mario Hezonja, you might want to just keep this to yourself. He's better than John Simmons. I think you should play over him. 31 minutes for Mario. 13, 4 and 1, 2 steals and a 3 for Hezonja. Simmons, another disappointing performance. 7 points in 21 minutes. I expected a significant drop from John Simmons. I didn't expect this level, and I think he will come back up again. I don't think you need to hold on to John Simmons. But again, I am probably the only person who is on the John Simmons is not good train. I know a lot of other fantasy people are really big on him. I'm not. I'm not. These sort of performances, I look at him and go, oh yeah, that's what he is. He's not good, and that's sort of how I'd rather them give Wes Iwundu minutes than John Simmons. And maybe I'm just irrationally. I love John Simmons' story. Love him as a bloke. Great stuff. I just don't like the way he plays. Lord Alfred Payton, another disappointing performance. Only 21 minutes for him, 6 points and 7 assists. That's 2 subpar performances in a row. I would still be holding on to him, but it is something for us to pay attention to. On to the Bucks. Malcolm Brogdon, good again. 37 minutes, 14, 9 and 7, 2 blocks. Turns out he is significantly better than Tone Snell and the other flotsam that he was trotting out there in the guard positions, like the bullshit of DeAndre Liggins, the Jason Terry minutes, the sexy boy Sean Kilpatrick playing time. Just play your best players. It's pretty bloody straightforward. Now, again, I don't care if Brogdon starts or not, but the bullshit of him playing 24 minutes or not playing for an entire first half so DeAndre Liggins can go out there and do whatever he needs to do, iron your pants. I don't know what his story is. That was just insanity. It was bullshit. It was horrendous coaching. This is good coaching. This is good stuff, Jason. I'll give you 2 thumbs up. I'll comb your goatee. I'll do whatever you want to do. This is good. And people say, oh, you criticize coaches there because they're on your fantasy team. No, not what I do at all. I've never done that in my life. I don't go out and make criticisms because I've drafted a guy or I played a guy in DFS and say, oh, this coach should have done this. That's not what I do. But I think you guys know that. Bledsoe, 15, 5 and 4, 27 minutes. The Muppet had 14 and 10 with 2 blocks. Middleton and Yanni were both strong in their minutes. Well, my boy Sterling Brown, man, watch this guy. 21 minutes for Sterling, 2 points, 7 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, more minutes than Tone Snell. Because, again, another dirty little secret, Tone Snell's not that good. I think he's better than this. I think he's better than the 17 minutes that he got. But Brown can absolutely develop into a 6th man and have multiple top 150 fantasy seasons, 2 or 3 of them, at some point in the next 5 to 6 seasons. I think he can get that out of Sterling Brown. I really like him. I think he can be very comfortably better than Snell in a couple of years' time. And his game is a lot more fantasy friendly. So he's a name to watch for deep dynasties. Very interesting to see the way the minutes were done here. Jason Terry didn't play in this game, while Sexy Boy played only the 3 minutes in garbage time. Getting to the end here, the second last game, the Atlanta Hawks and the Denver Nuggets. The artist formerly known as Taurean Prince, he's owned in 62% of leagues. What are the other 38% doing? There is no reason that he needs to be unowned in any league. 16, 5 and 3, 4 triples. Schroeder had 19, 2 and 10, and Kent Bazemore 14 and 5 with 2 triples. Now Bazemore should be owned as well, but he shouldn't be owned in 16% more leagues than what formerly is. Ersan Ilyasova 10 and 9, and the front court dickery, I guess, continued. But 17 minutes for Johnny Collins is better than 8. It wasn't a great John Collins night, 8 and 2 with 2 assists and a block. If you're in the 6th spot in the standings and you need that spot, by all means, drop him. If you're 1, 2, 3, 4, I am holding. I'm not dropping after 2 subpar performances or 2 subpar games with playing time. The performances prior to that were fine. I still think at some point we're going to see him playing 24 a night, 25 a night, and he's going to be able to put up top 60, top 50 numbers in that time frame. But it's really, can you survive 2 weeks? Can you survive 4 weeks of maybe 20 minutes a game? One thing that did happen here is Isaiah Taylor out of the rotation, Tyler Kavanagh out of the rotation as well, and we got more minutes for Michael Muscala. We just need Miles Plumlee out of the rotation. No need for that at all. So we can run an Ilyasova, Dedman, Collins, and Muscala front court. At the moment, they're running 5 big man, which is what's really impacting the Baptist. As for the Undertaker, 18 minutes, 9 and 9 with a block. I'd be happy going and adding him in a lot of leagues. Where Ilyasova 10 and 9 in 30 minutes. Onto the Nuggets. Gaz Harris.
Nice, Gary!
25 and 7, 2 steals, a block, 79% shooting. Remember the dickheads when he signed that extension? Who? Gary Harris. He's good. He's really good. Would he be an all-star in the Eastern Conference? Probably not. But you could make an argument for him at least to maybe be, they picked 12 blokes. Is he 15th on that list? Is he 20th on that list if he's in the Eastern Conference? If he's on the Bulls and they didn't trade him? Maybe. The Blue Arrow played 39 minutes, had 13, 2, and 3. I just love seeing those minutes for Jamal Murray. Well, Jokic, man, Jesus, that is horrible shooting. 4 of 21, missed all 8 of his three-point attempts, 19% from the field. But just imagine how sexy that line would have been if he had have gone at 50%. If he had have hit four of those threes. You're talking about 21, 12, and 7, 2 steals and 3 blocks. That is beautiful. So the other numbers, fantastic. The shooting, not so much. Will Barton got his minutes back, 34 of them here, 15 points, 3 triples. And I like that Mike Malone's rotation extension lasted about 2 games. We had 7 minutes for Ken Fareed, 3 minutes for Malik Beasley here, and Torrey Craig played only the 9, while Trey Lyles cooled off a bit, 11 and 6, but he should still be owned pretty clearly. The last game of the night, I don't even know what to tell you about this. The Clippers on the road with nobody playing took on the Warriors and beat them. We've talked about Lou Williams already, but I need to talk about the list manager, Ty Wallace. 34 minutes for him, 22, 6 and 4, 2 steals. I talked about him yesterday. He is the guy that had that 5x5 in the G League earlier this season. He can rack up numbers in multiple positions. And in this game, CJ Williams went down with what looked like a relatively serious ankle injury. We know that Austin Rivers isn't back for another week or 2. Milosh is still dealing with his plantar fasciitis issue. The Rooster, Danilo Gallinari, is still out. Ty Wallace is going to get minutes, and he is going to produce. This is his 3rd NBA game. He is a guy that I grabbed in 14-team leagues. I grabbed in a deep 12 already, and I would grab him in 12-team leagues. I would grab him over Jawan Evans, and I like Jawan Evans. But Wallace has this ability to do multiple different things, and the opportunity is here right now. Wes Johnson started, had 3 steals, and that's all you want out of Wes Johnson. Did literally nothing else, no points at all, 1 rebound, while Sammy Decker played 21 and had 4 and 6 in that time. While Evans played 36, he started, had 7, 3 and 6, so getting the assists. He's normally better than this, and he's going to have 12-team value, maybe not, maybe 14-team value. I would take Wallace over Jawan at this point. Big game from the table too, 14 and 7. He played like 14 minutes in the last game, 26 in this one. Try working that out because I can't. The Warriors, KD was back, 40 points, 6 triples, 4 rebounds, a steal and a block, 78%, and somehow was still not the most electric player on the court. That went to Lou Williams. There was no Steph. There was no Clay. Steph injured his ankle in practice or shoot around. I can't remember which one it was. It's not serious. He's either going to return on Friday or he's going to be back on Saturday. So he might miss 2 games. He might miss 1 game. Nothing to worry about there. Shawnee Livingston started, had 4 assists. Big deal. While Uncle P started in place of Clay and had 7 points. Again, nothing to be interested there. Jordy Bell, 14 minutes, 6, 3 and 2, a block. Pretty tough to hold on to him in 10-team leagues. Pretty tough in 12-team leagues. We know that the upside is there, but he's just not getting 25 minutes a game. It just is not going to happen. You can wish it into existence as much as you want. It just isn't going to happen. So if that's what you're waiting for, maybe next year. It's not going to happen this year. So Bell can go back to the waiver wire in a lot of different cases. All right, that wraps up a very long breakdown of all the information from the games from Wednesday. my voice is drying out. I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back and look at the player spotlight. We're going to shine that brightly over in the Staples Center on one of the guards there, and then we're going to preview a 4-game slate for Thursday in the NBA for DFS. I'm going to let you go to the break with a song by Con Etiquette. And the song, and I apologize if I get these song names wrong. That's how they're appearing on my screen, so I apologize if they're wrong. This is called Human and the Divine by Con Etiquette, and I'll be back to do the player spotlight and the DFS portion of the show. He hit me with one screen today, and I thought my life was over. Seriously, he's like from Krypton or something. He's strong. I'm going to call him in here and let him set a screen on you.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. And today's Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast is also brought to you by MyBookie. Sign up now and get your deposit matched with up to 50% bonus by using the promo code LOCKEDONNBA. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy basketball analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me as always on Twitter at redrock_bball. We have got a big Wednesday to break down. There are 11 games there. We're going to preview a 4-game Thursday, which includes an early game, 1 game in London between the Celtics and the Sixers. We're going to cast the player spotlight on a Los Angeles Lakers guard, and we're going to go through all the other nightly awards. So, Michael Bolton.
Let's get to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bolton. Every Wednesday from now until, I don't know, let's say I'd say probably sometime in March, I'm going to be hosting an AMA on the Fantasy Basketball subreddit at Fantasy B-Ball over there, and giving away a Basketball Monster membership to people over there on that subreddit. Had huge response today, just smashed through with questions and comments. So I appreciate everyone who did join in there. Every Wednesday at about 4 Eastern, there'll be an AMA posted over there on that Fantasy Basketball subreddit. So join in, and you can get involved and ask questions, and I'll be there normally there for about an hour and a half, and then cycle back through the day to answer questions. So thank you to everyone who was there and participated in that AMA today over on the Fantasy B-Ball subreddit. There's so much for us to talk about, given all the stuff that actually went down on Wednesday, so I'm not going to muck around too much more. Let's get straight to the monstrous line of the night. You know who it is. It's Lou Williams of the LA Clippers. 50 points for Lou. In the way he got to 50, just a ludicrous deep 3, just unbelievable stuff. 8 triples for Lou, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 16 of 27 from the field, and a perfect 10 of 10 from the line. I think that I speak the truth when I say that Lou Williams being the 25th ranked player this season would shock absolutely every single person in the fantasy basketball universe. There is absolutely no chance that I thought he would be that. He is the 15th ranked player over the last month, in that time averaging 28, 3.7 triples, 2.6 rebounds, 5.3 assists and 0.5 steals, going 44, 92 and 43 is his percentages on a usage of 33%. These are numbers that are out of control. Now, of course, at the start of the season, maybe we could have foresawn that we would have had Pat Beverly out for the season, Blake Griffin out, Miloš Teodosic out, Danilo Gallinari. We could have anticipated that all these guys were out, but probably not at the same time. So Williams is carrying this Clippers team. They are almost in the 8th seed in an unbelievable turn of events. At some point, Williams' numbers will drop. He won't maintain a usage of 33% for the season. He might hover around 29 or 30 around that mark. I've got no concerns about that, and I think his efficiency will be something that can keep up. He was at 59% true shooting last year and 58 the year before, for in the game before that, 20 the game before that, and plenty of these were games without Lonzo Ball. So he wasn't even getting starting point guard minutes there. He was playing behind Tyler Ennis, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and Joshie the Hitman Hart. Just an excuse. When they've got that shooting guard position locked down. Clarkson is barely playing there. So his rest of season outlook on the Lakers, it's not good, because he's not good. He's not a very good player. He is a guy that, look, his efficiency looked good But again, he's just at 34% from three. He's at true shooting of 53%. Earlier in the season, he was shooting 51% from the field and really killing it. But now it's just not happening. Now, he could get traded somewhere. Absolutely, he could get traded because that contract's not looking great. But if I was a GM from another team and someone in the Lakers said, look, you want Jordy Clarkson for 2 more years, I think it's 2 or 3 more years on this contract of 11.5, 12 million a year, I'd say you better bloody put some assets behind that because he's not a good player. He is a negative player. His advanced numbers on off, this season he is just in the positive. The Lakers are 0.2 points per 100 possessions better with him on the court. His previous 3 seasons, negative 2.9, negative 6.9, negative 3.9. So a negative in all those seasons. He's a negative box score plus minus guy for each season of his career. Negative 1.8 this year. He is a very, very bad defender. His defensive box score plus minus is terrible. His true shooting has been below league average for each season of his career. 53, 52, 53, 53. So we're getting a pattern. He's a 53% true shooting guy. He's a below average win shares player. Some of that is to do with the fact that he does play on the Lakers, but he doesn't really contribute to winning. He's not a positive force. His net ratings are negative every season. His on-offs are negative every season. He is not a positive player. So teams are not acquiring him to play a large role. So we have to be, and this is where real life and fantasy intersects with each other. Because you can say, start of the season, he played 26 a night, 27 a night, putting up numbers. All that stuff was unsustainable. But you go to a team that's maybe worse than the Lakers, and what are there? 4 of those, 5 of those? The Suns. I don't even think the Suns are worse than them. The Kings, the Hawks. Who's the Magic? Who's worse than the Lakers? Does he go there and start playing 27 a night and become their starting point guard? He wouldn't in Sacramento. He wouldn't in Atlanta. He wouldn't in Orlando. He wouldn't become the starting 2. He's just not that good. He's a 6th man who plays 21, 22 minutes per night. And going to a better team, why is he going to be able to come out there and play so much better? He doesn't pass. He doesn't do defensive work. He doesn't defend. He doesn't get defensive stats. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't do any of these things that you need to do to be a good real-life player and be a good fantasy player. He just isn't that guy. I am clearly not super high on Jordan Clarkson at all. And people will look at it and go, man, he averaged 14 points per game in his career, man. He must be good. That's just really not the whole story. He's averaging 14 points per game this season in 23 minutes. And that looks great on the surface. He's not good. He's not a good fantasy player. He's not a great real-life player. He can score and he can get hot in bunches, and that can be useful at times. He can come on down the stretch and play these minutes. If someone's struggling, absolutely he can do that. But to expect it on a consistent basis, which is what we want from a fantasy guy, it's not happening. He is not a guy that I'm going, if I own him in a 12-team league, done. He's not there. 14-team league? Probably not. I am not picking him up in anticipation of a trade. I am not trading for him in anticipation of a trade. I just don't think he is good. He has never shown us top 100 pedigree over the course of a season. Hasn't happened. Worse this year. Role continues to diminish. And the likelihood of him going to a team where he's going to start playing significantly more, maybe he goes to the Wizards because their backup guard situation is not strong. Maybe that happens. But can they actually pull it off? I don't think they've got the contracts or the assets to pull that off, to get him in there for $12 million for the next 2 years. But even then, Johnny Wall plays 37 a night. Bradley Beal plays 37 a night. What's Clarko doing? Playing the 22 minutes a night there and sharing the court with one of them pretty much all the time and not handling the ball and seeing his usage drop. There's nothing super exciting about Jordan Clarkson. Now, in all the times when I do these analysis, I can be wrong. Of course, I can be wrong. I've been wrong on guys plenty of times. I just don't see it with Clarkson. There's nothing trending in his direction. Watching him play, he doesn't pass the eye test as a consistent good player. The stats don't back that up either. I just don't see much from him from a fantasy point of view or from a real-life NBA point of view, and those two things do intersect in this scenario. The perfect DFS lineup. These are some absolute rippers. Good luck if you had these lineups. On FanDuel, Kemba, 61.6. Johnny Wall, 62.7. The list manager, Ty Wallace, 38.8. Lou Williams, 55.9. Now, you could have had Johnny Wall. You could have had Kemba. You should have had Ty and Lou Williams. I talked about those guys pretty significantly yesterday. So that's fine. Mick Beasley, 45.9. You know what? Now that I look at it, maybe you could have had this lineup. Mick Beasley, 45.9. Jim Butler, 60.4. Lauri Markkanen, 54.5. I can understand getting those top 7 into a lineup. Yep. Jermichael Green, 46.8. Probably not. Epe Udo, 44.8. Probably not, although Udo was obviously in a good situation with favours out, which is not something we talked about on yesterday's program. DraftKings, Chrissy Paul, 70.25, Lou Williams, 60, Jermichael Green, 47, Markkanen at 58, Udo, 40.25, Kembers at 59.75, Mick Beasley, 47.5, and here we go, Jarrett Jack, 49.5, for a total of 432.25, and that cost $49,000 dues. The first game of the night, make sure you are checking your contest, because in a lot of cases, this one won't be included because it is over in London. The Celtics and the Sixers, those two teams do still exist, even though we haven't seen them play all week. The Celtics are favoured by 2.5, and the total is 208 points here. Amir Johnson is questionable for the Sixers. Al Horford is in. Joel Embiid is in, so that's obviously good news. This game starts, I believe, at 7 a.m. here in Australia, so get yourselves up a little bit early to go and watch that. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern. It kicks off in the States, so everyone should be able to enjoy this one, everyone in Europe as well. It's a game that everyone can get involved in. And it's going to be good. I'm really excited to see what goes on here. Let's talk about it from DFS point of view. There's quite a few options on this 4-game slate to use in this game. TJ McConnell's at 4,400. I wouldn't say that he's necessarily one of them. His play has dropped off recently. Kyrie's at 82. I'm big on Kyrie here. I think that this is, again, on a limited slate, getting a fairly comfortable feeling of 35 minimum from Kyrie is good with that 50-point upside. And an expectation of 40 is a decent thing here for him. Rozier's at 4,500. I'd love him at 4,000. 4,500 probably feels a little bit too high. And Jared Bayless, man, give me 3,500 to roster him. At shooting guard, JJ Redick's at 5,200. Nice consistent numbers at 26 average over the last 5, averaging 28 over the last 3. So 5,200. I think his upside's pretty limited. But for cash, I feel like he is not a bad cash shooting guard. Not costing you too much. At small forward, Bob Cove is down to 5,500 because honestly, he's been really bad lately, but I do like him for a tournament guy. We know he can go off, he can bomb in 6 or 7 threes, get 6 or 7 steals, and that really can translate into 50, 60 point upside, which is massive at that salary. I like him for tournaments. Jaylen Brown's at 53. I would much rather take Bob Cove in a tournament. I would much rather take Jaylen in a cash game, although his numbers recently haven't been too sexy themselves. Not a lock cash guy. Shemi Ojeleye, man, I'm surprised he hasn't scored more in negatives. At power forward, Marcus Morris is at 4,100. He has got a good record against the Sixers, but it's a completely different scenario. Playing now, of course, for Boston. He had one of those games against with Boston against Philly, so some decent performances, but definitely not someone I care about in cash. Šarić at 6,300. The salary's dropped, not enough for my liking, while Benny Simmons is at 9,000. I'm in on Simmons here. He's had that little dip a few games ago, but recently killing it, averaging 40 in his last 5, 48 in his last 3. I think that we're looking at a 35 minimum, which is not a great floor for 9,000, but 45, 50 is not an extraordinary ask for Benny Simmons. Jason Tatum, 6,200. Really big numbers for him in that last game, in large part due to all the blocks that he was pulling off. 6,200 though, given his recent form before that, feels like it's an excessive price. Tice, Booker, Johnson, nah. Center, the process, Joel Embiid, 10,200. If it was an extended slate, a 7-8 game slate, I probably wouldn't get involved with Embiid at this price, but given the limited number of players at high salary or have got that 50-point ability, then I think you have to consider Embiid for both cash and for tournaments, whereas Al Horford at 6,800, I like that. I think this is a 40 burger for Al. I'm in on him. Bainesy at 3,800. Will the Celtics start Baines over Morris? I think they will against the Šarić Embiid front court. Baines is actually averaging 20 points over his last 5. 20 points, 3,800. It's a level of cash reliability there. I'm not ready to lock him in for cash, but it is a name to consider if you need a cheap player. Over on DraftKings, Embiid at 10-1 is still a tournament and cash guy, while Benny Simmons at 85 I also like. Kyrie's at 84, so it's a little bit higher than I would prefer on DraftKings, while Bob Cove again, 5,500, some value there. I hate the price of Al Horford on DraftKings. 7,900 is definitely stay away territory. JJ Redick at 55 is probably priced a little bit too high, as is Tatum at 6,300. I feel Jason Tatum needs a nickname. I'm feeling Dredrick, but yeah, that's Kyrie Irving's dad's name, so there's a bit too much crossover there. I need to think of something for Jason. Not ready to go down that the Dredrick path just yet. Let's kick it on to the next game. That is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry is doubtful. It's unlikely Kyle plays in this one. It's unlikely he plays in the next game as well. So we're going to get more Delon Wright. He is at $5,700. That's a $900 price rise, but I feel pretty good about a 30 point performance for Delon going against the Cavs backcourt. Really good spot for him. I like him for cash. I like him for tournaments. Freddie Van Vliet's at 36. Remember, also in this game, Lowry not playing, Serge Ibaka also not playing. So there are going to be opportunities for many players. Van Vliet is a tournament sort of a guy who's going to get an extra role with Lowry out. Isaiah Thomas, 5,400. That price is tumbling. He's not going to get suspended for smashing Andrew Wiggins upside the head. He only had 12 points in his last game because his outstanding shooting wasn't going to continue in those limited minutes. Even though he has reduced to 5,400, I would only consider him a tournament guy, and even then, probably better guys out there. At shooting guard, DeMar DeRozan at 9,600. A 50-point performance here from DeRozan is definitely not out of this realm of possibility. He averages 48 against the Cavs the last 3 times. He only had 38 in that last game without Lowry. I know he can be better than that. So I think that he is a strong-ish play. You can use him in cash given the limited slate. Norm Powell, 3,800, probably not. The plumber, J.R. Smith, 36. Dwayne Wade, 54. Maybe Wado at 54 is worth a look, but I would only be considering him a tournament guy. The Jedi, OG Anunoby, 3,500. He has got the opportunity, and I think he will, start at power forward, and that might be able to push him into 30 minutes. Increase, maybe he can block a single shot. That'd be good, but get some rebounds. He is a tournament option here. We've seen him have a 30-point game this season, and that would be great at 3,500, and this is the opportunity to do that. CJ Miles at 38 is also a 30-point upside guy who's going to have that extra opportunity and should probably start at small forward with Anunoby moving up to the power forward position. The other small forward, LeBron James. He's at 11,500, the same logic that I use for Joel Embiid. There aren't that many high-priced guys on there. Let's get LeBron in. Let's surround him with some cheaper players. Maybe it's a Freddie Van Vliet. Maybe it's a Delon Wright to get that value up there. LeBron's got really, really strong floor, especially after he shit the bed in that game against the Wolves. Power forward, Siakam's a minimum salary guy. He's not that good, but the opportunity is there for him, so he definitely enters the tournament pool. I would absolutely consider him a tournament option around some of these big name players, Embiid, LeBron, and then you can get a Jedi and Siakam in there and hope that they go off because there's an opportunity for them. Jay Crowder's at 3,900. That seems it seems so low for Crowder to be at that price. I would consider him a tournament guy, but that's about it. Well, Jeff Green at 4,400 has been putting up okay numbers, but I want him under 4,000, sorry. At center, Valanciunas, 6,200. Now, does JV get extra minutes with Ibaka out? Probably. I think it's an opportunity, but Kevin Love, man. Kevin Love can really roast Valanciunas defensively, so that's a concern. But he has absolutely got 35 to 40 point upside here, Valanciunas, so he's a tournament guy, but I wouldn't want to use him for cash. As for Love, he's at 6,700. That is a huge tumble because he's averaging 18 points in his last 3 games with Isaiah Thomas back. Has really struggled. He will be better than that. I feel very confident about that. Will he make 6,700 worth of value? I'm not ready to stake that into a cash game, but I absolutely look at it as a tournament option. Bebe at minimum salary, blocks some shots. I don't really feel great about it. And Tristan Thompson, I feel the opposite of great about. DraftKings, LeBron, DeRozan, 11.3 and 8.8 respectively, and Delon at 5,100. They're all strong cash and tournament plays. And CJ Miles, Jonas Valanciunas, the Jedi, Freddie Van Vliet, Pascal Siakam, all those guys are tournament plays. Very, very similar to how it looks over on FanDuel. The big difference here is Kevin Love is at 7,900, and I want as little to do with that as possible, while Dwayne Wade at 4,800 would actually, he might sneak into cash game consideration at that lower price. The next game, the LA Clippers and the Sacramento Kings, the Clippers on that back-to-back after beating the Warriors today. CJ Williams is out with that ankle sprain. Milosh and Blake Griffin are both questionable, so they're obviously going to be key key parts to see whether they actually play or not. For the Kings, we don't know the status of Frank Mason III. We don't know the status of Georgie Hill. So if both of those guys are out, then it's time to really get cracking onto our De'Aaron Foxes and Bogdan Bogdanovic. But there is a level of unknown in this game, quite significant level. As for Milosh, 5,400, that would be a tournament play if he happens to play. Jawan Evans is at 51. Struggled a little bit with his shot today, but absolutely in that GPP pool also. Well, De'Aaron Fox is now at 6,300, and I would not touch that with a single 10-foot pole unless both Hill and Mason are out. Because if they both play, who knows what Dave Yeager-Dickery is going to go on. Fox has been very, very strong the last couple of games, but performance has absolutely nothing to do with Yeager's rotations. And if he's got other options at point guard, you can be damn sure he's going to use them. So, yeah, if those guys are out, then sure, Foxy, let's go. That's fine. It's not a bad cash play, but if they're in, make it someone else's problem. At shooting guard, how high is too high for Lou Williams? 8,900. It's getting pretty bloody high. Now, he was obviously fantastic in today's game against the Warriors, but prior to that, he was averaging 41 over the last 5 and 36 over the last 3, which is all right, but is it quite at that 8,900 mark? If Blake is out, I'm in on Lou here. If Blake is in, that's a tough price to sell, backing it up for the second night in a row with that extra usage there for going towards Griffin. I like Bogdan at 5,500. He's a rare Kings player that I like as a cash guy, while Budrick at 45 is more of a tournament type of player. It is a really good matchup for these shooting guards, though. The list manager, Ty Wallace, 3,600. Love him for cash. Love him for tournaments, especially with CJ out. While Garrett Temple's at 3,800 for a very good reason. At small forward, Wes Johnson, Slam Sammy Decker, Vincey Carter. Maybe Carter at 4,200, but I don't trust that he's actually going to play. Wes Johnson at 4,000. You could throw into a tournament if Blake is out, but otherwise, no. Power forward Griffin, 8,800. Absolutely, if he is ready to go, and I get the feeling he might play in this game. If Griffin plays here, I would definitely consider him a cash option. He came back from the knee injury and was cracking straight away. I think he'll be okay coming back from this concussion. But we've seen players with concussions have some problems when they return, so there's an element of risk. Zebo down to 4,900 has not been good lately, but he is a tournament guy with 50-point upside because Jaeger could just ride him real hard. While the Bissiere at 42, I don't really feel much there. At center, DeAndre's at 8,800. Centers against the Kings, slightly a notch below where centers against the Nets are, but it's still a good spot. I like DeAndre at that price. Cauley Stein at 7,000. It's a tough one, but I think he's got an opportunity for a 40 here. So at 7,000, he is absolutely in tournament style situation. DraftKings, Lou Williams, 8,300. Lock it in. Willie Cauley-Stein at 63. Lock it in. Cash tournaments. Love them both. Bogdan at 5,000 and the list manager, Ty Wallace at 3,800. Also really strong cash plays. And Budrick's at 47 as a tournament guy. Blake at 85 and DeAndre at 84. I can definitely see using DeAndre and Blake at 85 if he plays is also a pretty good option, as I highlighted in the FanDuel section. Let's get on to this last game. It's San Antonio. It's the Lakers. Tone Parker is doubtful. Kawhi is out. Dan Green is questionable. So there's going to be some weirdness going on with the lineups. Let's start with the point guards. It's DeJounte Murray. He's at 3,800. I expect that he will start. It is a great matchup for DeJounte. He had 29 points in his last game. He is absolutely worth a look in a tournament, and you could probably make the decision to use him in cash in order to get Embiid or LeBron into your lineups. Great spot. Pat Mills, 4,000. Millsy had a decent game in the last one. He's had a couple of strong games recently, but a couple of real turd burgers. But without Kawhi, without Tone, and likely without Dan Green as well, 4,000 for Mills makes a strong GPP with some level of tournament upside. Now, Lonzo Ball, just putting up really good numbers. He's at 7,800. The Spurs defense worries me. The price there worries me, so I'd leave him as a tournament type of guy. At shooting guard, we have got Dan Green. That's a pass. Jordy Clarkson. I just shit on him for about 5 minutes, so that's a pass. KCP at 5,100. Had a good game in the last one. Shitouts before that, so he is a fade. Manu's at 44. I actually like Manu here. I think he's absolutely a tournament guy. He had 41 in his last game. I feel pretty good about him getting close to 25. I like Manu. The hitman Josh Hart's at minimum salary. Tough to see the minutes, while Bryn Forbes at minimum. Maybe. Forbes, had a 32-point game so far this season. No Tone, no Dan, no Kawhi. Maybe he could take it on, but he's been disappointing majority of the time, so there's no way that I'd want to use him in cash. At small forward, Ingram at 6,600. No Kawhi to shut him down. Probably no Dan Green. So I like him at 6,600 for cash. Kyle Anderson at 56. I don't think there's much upside there in Kyle Anderson, but I actually do think that he is a pretty strong cash play as a sort of an anchor there on the wing. At power forward, Davis Bertans, 4,500. He is going to have stupid high ownership. I can almost assure you of that. He had 39 points in 31 minutes in the last game. He's been really good lately. People seem to think that he's a natural replacement for Kawhi. That's just not the case. He's not a 3. He's going to be the guy that plays alongside LaMarcus, alongside Powell in those 4-5 combinations. I still think he's going to get some decent minutes here, but expecting a repeat of the 39-point performance from the last game is probably a little bit rich. So tournaments only. I'm not keen on cash. I think he's going to be too highly owned. The future MVP, 5,100, Kyle Kuzma, has struggled recently. It may be tournaments, but that's it. Well, LaMarcus at 9,900, man, you can take that. He's been really good, but you can take that at that price. That is too high for Aldridge. At center, Powell, 5,500. Bang. I mean, on Powell, I feel like this is almost a 30 minimum game for him. Totally in. Brook Lopez at 44. Good game in the last one for Brookie, but it's not translating to big numbers, so that's a fade. Well, Julius Randle at 6,700 in on him, cash and tournaments. Over on DraftKings, a bunch of guys I like for tournaments on DraftKings. Gasol at 57, Randall at 65, DeJounte at 45. So that's a little bit higher than FanDuel, so that takes him away from the cash considerations. While Davis Bertans at 45 is a tournament guy. But I like Lonzo for cash at 7.2. I would play him in cash at that price. Same with Ingram at 6,600. And LaMarcus is a much sexier target here at 8,500. Let's wrap it up. Let's go on to the other sites. Yahoo, let's talk some tournament guys. Jonas Valanciunas, Jaylen Brown, Budrick Hield, Davis Bertans, the Jedi, Siakam, Skal Labissiere, and the list manager Ty Wallace. For cash, Jay Crowder, Terry Rozier, Manu, Pat Mills, DeJounte, Bogdan, Powell, DeLon, Lonzo, DeAndre, and DeMar DeRozan. On Moneyball, for tournaments, Kyrie, Lonzo, Valanciunas, DeJounte, Budrick, the Jedi, Siakam, Pat Mills, Manu Ginobili. And for cash, you've got Bertans, Bogdanovich, Powell, Ingram, DeLon, Benny Simmons, DeAndre Jordan, Lou Williams, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeMar DeRozan, LeBron James, and Ty Wallace. And on DraftStars, again, reminder, don't play the scam of the big 400 target. You are not going to win it. For tournaments, Bud Hield, Brook Lopez, CJ Miles, Pat Mills, the Jedi, Jordy Clarkson, and Ty Wallace. For cash, Davis Bertans, Bogdan, Kyle Anderson, Pau Gasol, Brandon Ingram, DeLon Wright, Jonas Valanciunas, DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Lou Williams, and DeMar DeRozan. We are done. Don't forget to check out our sponsor, mybookie.ag, and use that promo code LOCKEDONNBA to get a 50% match deposit bonus. And if you are listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review and say whatever you want. Make sure it's a 5-star review, though. You can also find this podcast on Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, and Spotify. And, of course, on YouTube. Thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment over there. Check out my Reddit AMA. Every week, every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. You can ask me questions over there, and I'll give away a BBM membership to the best question, or the best question in my eyes, of the day. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Jimmy Butler.